Ladies and gentlemen, we're thankful to be joined again by the Wilco Training Cadre to have another discussion about the 7 firearm fundamentals, this time focusing on sight alignment and sight picture. What is the relationship between the front sight and the rear sight with pistols? How do we put the bullet where we want it to go? Do I need a red dot? Should I get a red dot? We'll dig into some of these questions and pick the brains of some of these professionals. As always, give us a like and let us know in the comments what would you like to have a discussion on and what are some of your questions. As always, we would love to hear from you. Enjoy the show. All right, we are live. Happy to have Dusty and Travis with us for this discussion. We're just going to get into and talk a little bit about the next firearm fundamentals. We talked about stance and grip on the last discussion. Let's talk about sight alignment and sight picture. So stance, grip, the next are sight alignment and sight picture. Sight alignment essentially is marrying the front sight of your pistol, and we're talking about pistols. We'll get into rifles, I'm sure, way on down the road, but pistol fundamentals translate into rifle fundamentals, and for whatever reason, it does not go the other direction. Rifle fundamentals do not translate into pistol fundamentals to a degree, but your pistol fundamentals will help you with rifle. So with sight alignment, marrying up the front sight with the rear sight. Typically, with sight alignment on your pistols, you have kind of like a U shape on the rear sight, and then you've typically got a post on the front sight. Nate, good to have you with us, brother. Welcome.
Hello. Apologies. Life stuff.
Oh man, it will get in the way. It will get in the way. It will get in the way. It's always a good thing. Happy to have you with us, man. No problem. Thanks for being here. We are getting into sight alignment and sight picture, and I was just getting into with pistols, and we're sticking with pistols. Typically on that rear sight, you've got like a horseshoe or a U shape, and in the front sight, you've got a post. And the methodology, put that front sight post in the center of the rear sight, and then you have equal height and equal light with your relationship between the front sight post and the rear sight. So sight alignment is just that. And for everybody, I kind of always understood that whenever I started shooting. Was that ever, for anybody, was that ever kind of not explained or not? Did anybody not get that?
I don't think I got it. I don't remember anything, from when, shooting in basic and then, pre-deployment shooting. It wasn't anything like kind of specific geared towards like sight alignment, sight picture of like, marrying, like the split the field goals, equal height, equal light. It wasn't anything like that. I kind of remember like almost verbatim, like one of the CADM and like dudes was like, all right, like get your front sight post into the picture, and once it's in there, squeeze. Now just imagine, just do that every time. And that was kind of the training that I got, at least for like rifle, for like what sight alignment, sight picture looked like. It was like, find a spot that's comfortable for you and then just match it each time.
Gotcha. It was kind of always taken that the shooter knew to do that from the DOD and the different places that I got to go and do some shooting. It was, yeah, this shooter obviously knows how to accomplish sight alignment. So move on to whatever the next thing is, or accomplish the course of fire. Dusty, with the stuff that you got to go and do, did you always know about hard front sight focus Did you always know about that, or did you get that from somewhere?
Yeah, so I like I said before in the past, I was fortunate enough to be taught the right way the first time. So it just wasn't explained the way we explain it, and I think the way we do it is very comprehensive and detailed.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And we draw from a lot of these other agencies or customers that we've had the privilege and the honor of working with and essentially learning from. Nate, what about you, man? I when somebody showed me hard front sight focus and to get the most accurate shot that way, it kind of opened up a lot of doors and it allowed me to get a bit faster and to get a bit more accurate. What about you? What was that like?
Yeah, I think when I first started shooting, I was still using the M9 Beretta, and I remember as a guy that kind of got us both into an elevated or more trained way of shooting, who was an IPSC GM at that point in time, really good instructor as well. Uh, he would paint the white dots of our Beretta black on the sights, and he kind of,
Yeah.
your brain tells you like, what are you doing? Why? How am I gonna line these dots up? Well, if you think about, these are mass-produced weapons. Everybody thinks that military grade. No, it's military grade. That's not a good thing. I would
No,
not
it's
want that. So having these, you know, CADMs or whoever is training you, just trying to get you on paper, they say line the dots up. Well, that's not really always going to work. When you black out the white dots on the rear and front sight post, now you really have to focus on equal height, equal light. Almost having like a flat surface along the top, if you will, and draw on your eye. Now, once we did that, graduated into which a lot of people use, night vision sights. I like just a fiber optic front sight because it draws right, but then again, there's still a learning curve. So knowing what your pistol is, being comfortable with it, but knowing the fundamentals behind why you're doing it. It's not just lining up dots. It's equal height, equal light on the actual sights. I don't know if he talks about this too, because it is sight alignment, sight picture. The target should be blurry. The front sight should be clear, and the rear sight should be blurry. Which, for people that don't shoot a lot, seems counterproductive. Why is the target blurry? Well, I can't assess the equal height, equal light, or the positioning of my front sight in relation to my rear sight if my target is crystal clear. That doesn't mean you lose PID of the target, which again is a discussion for another time. And apologies if you've already covered this. I think one important thing, because I found this out, I mentioned in the last talk we had, training people that they're trying to get better, but they might be a logistician or they might be ammo. They don't get to shoot a lot. There's Air Force desk jobs or what have you. Drawing the gun high and driving out where your eyes are and picking up that sight. It's almost like you draw as high as you can, it'll be upper chest, and you're driving out and almost like start to taper off at your chin so your eyes can catch it. What a lot of people do is they bring their eyes down or their head down to the sights. And now they're shrugging, now their posture's off. And also then they start, I can't see it, so they start manipulating it in their hand. I mean, essentially
messing the grip up.
Yeah, exactly. And now we're shooting halfway up the berm and you're like, okay, whoa, what are you actually looking at? There's no way you can acquire both your rear and front sight post and the target. So you're essentially creating a straight line from your eyes through the rear sight, through the front sight, to where your intended spot on your target is. I would say if you were shooting at 7, we want to keep the pistol completely level. Like if you put a level on top, well, I mean, if you're shooting at something that's a foot off the ground, that doesn't make any sense. The bubble's not going to be in the middle. But you get what I'm saying? It should be a straight line from your eyes through.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought it up because that was going to legitimately be the next point. Fuzzy target, fuzzy rear sight, crystal clear front sight post. And that will give you where the tip of that front sight post is where the impact will be on your target. Um, Dusty, you ever had those stock Glock rear sight shift on you?
Oh yeah, the shifter come off. Yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah.
the new Sig Sauer that the Army and Air Force just um, won that contract, awarded that contract to. Now they just explode because I've had
Oh
the
really?
rear, yeah, the rear sight just explodes off, and at 25, it's about 6 inches low. That's mil grade. That's military grade
That
for you.
Yeah, military grade. That is the typically the lowest bidder is military standard, which is not to throw shade at the people spending that money, but that is the reality. Mil
You can
grade.
throw shade,
Yeah, yeah. Um,
but it's got a safety on it, so it's safe. Doesn't matter where it shoots, it's safe.
Oh, well, we'll bring that. Yeah, we're gonna have to have the famous M9 rant or the external safety rant. That'll be a whole another discussion. But and we will have that discussion. But speaking of sights, you brought up a not just the rear Glock sights and the problems that we've seen there for those stock sights, but also the one of the other gripes that I've got is that the little moon for the front sight on the stock Glock sights, you put the moon or the dot, the white dot, again into the horseshoe. And people, I remember, hey, I'm shooting high. Why am I shooting high? My fundamentals are great here. And like, well, do you see a half moon or do you see a full moon? Got a full moon. I'm dropping the circle into the horseshoe. Okay, well, you're supposed to be splitting it in half. That gives you equal height, equal light on the stock Glock sights. So just kind of caveating on what you brought up, knowing the ins and outs of those things can help. But Dusty, did you have something? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. To your point, there's a lot of manufacturers out there that'll put that dot on the front sight, and it draws your attention whenever you aim down the sights. You see the circle, and you want to think, I put the circle in the horseshoe, without regard to the height of the front sight of the front sight post. So, like you said, if you're using a new piece of equipment, it's a consideration to get familiar with when you aim down the sights. Don't focus necessarily on any markings from the manufacturer, but focus on leveling the tops of the rear and front sight posts.
Yeah, yeah. Give me just a second, guys. I've got the young one.
Dude, like just to kind of talk about that point, right? Like the standard Glock sight, the aftermarket sights that you can get, I think, do a better job of maintaining, the fuzziness of the target versus the front sight post, right? Where with that standard Glock sight, at least, you almost lose it. But with like, what is the one that Clark runs, like the Proctor
Often
Y
adjustable.
notch, right? So you if you have that equal height, equal light, but you still see the silhouette, on the like splitting the difference between those, like the front sight post, and you can still maintain that PID. Where I think for me, at least sometimes, like at distance, right? If we're shooting 25, I kind of lose it altogether. And granted, like I understand that's a long ways away, but in my mind, I don't feel like even if I have equal height, equal light, I don't feel like I'm on target just because I can't see that fuzziness at distance.
That is so you kind of segue into something else that I wanted to bring up real quick before we forget about it. Sight picture, taking the sight alignment and putting it onto the target. Sight picture. Now that that's out of the way, back to what you were kind of talking about, Travis. The 25 meters and doing our 10 round slow fire, graded 25 round slow fire for the Wilco standards, you start to lose the target to a degree, and you've got that arc of movement that you're never going to be able to get completely rid of. Um, And I notice as well, whenever I'm doing my 10-round slow fire, goodness gracious, my eyes are getting a little fatigued. I need to take a minute, may even need to reholster and shake it out real quick, and then go back to re-engage my one round at 25 meters. And that arc of movement, if your trigger control and your stance and grip, and you've got a hard front sight focus, if those are all ironed out, you got a pretty good chance of putting the round not only in the 8 ring, but probably in the black. And Travis, you got to see that on the last kind of training event that we had. Did you get to see some of that, where if you just kind of rely on the fundamentals, more often than not, you're in the 8 ring and potentially in the black?
For sure. Yeah, I definitely saw, kind of the later, course of fires that we shot where you were like kind of, in my ear almost, and talking, like kind of talking me through it, trying to that arc of movement and just trusting that my fundamentals are going to put the round where it's supposed to be. And it, oh my gosh, it works. So yeah, I got to, experience that firsthand.
Right on. Right on. And then Dusty, we were talking a little bit before the call, and Conley, I know that you'll appreciate this. Trigger control, which is coming up next. So we're aiming, right? We're looking down. We've got great hard front sight focus. Our sight alignment is square. We've developed a sight picture. Stance and grip couldn't be any more appropriate. And then it's all for naught. It's all for naught if we are inducing undue motion into the gun with a poor trigger press. And that will be one of our next discussions, trigger control. And to quote Rob Latham, it's all for naught with a new shooter if you can't stop inducing motion into the gun with a poor trigger press. Conley, sorry, I felt like I was stepping on you. Do you have something that you were going to say?
No, you weren't stepping on me. But to your point, arc of movement, for those that haven't seen it or know exactly what that kind of looks like, it'll look like a figure 8, exactly kind of how Clark's doing right now. The same thing happens with the rifle, especially as you get fatigued. Rifles are heavy, the more kind of, I'm sure, kit setup and gun setup will be a topic for a different time. But the heavier that your gun gets, you start putting PECs, flashlights, 8-tackers, 1 to 6s, 1 to 8s, whatever you want to put on it. Now the gun's heavy, and more movement. To your point, though, that you just made, just real quick, you said trigger control. Well, if you don't know that there's a natural arc of movement, or I just call it a figure 8, then you're more prone to anticipate. Exactly. You're more prone to anticipate because you're trying to guess. And now we're just throwing all our fundamentals out the window. We're just trying to time it. And that's not really how it works. Logically it would, but it's not how it doesn't work that way. It's the gun is going to break, and if you're within the black that you're aiming at, or the intended spot that you're aiming at, the gun will go off in that area, and you more than likely, with everything else being correct, you'll hit where you want to hit. Last point I wanted to make, you're talking about your arc of movement. Since this is kind of, for either rudimentary shooters or people that have shot a while, or even like, if there's guys that we've been training in SRT and they run red dots on their guns. Okay, now it's not really a figure 8. Now it looks like a tremble. If you haven't trained to a red dot on your pistol, now it looks like a tremble. The rifle, not so much, it won't tremble, but the pistol, for whatever reason, it just looks like it's moving side to side and it's all over the place. Again, you don't guess, you anticipate. And that, again, is another learning curve for sight alignment, sight picture, because you have to find the dot now. And it's really important to bring it high to your, through your face, essentially. Exactly. Yep. That's the only thing I wanted to bring up.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. And it's having your sight window ingrained to come out at the same spot with every draw and every presentation How many repetitions does it take, Dusty? You would know as well as the rest of us. It takes 2,000 to 3,000 repetitions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to build that muscle memory, and so for folks going right out of the gate with a new pistol, I'm throwing a red dot on that thing, and leaving the 20th century in the rear view. Hey man, great, but I can't imagine anything worse than drawing the pistol in a deadly force encounter and then having to find my dot to be able to put it with a sight picture onto the threat and then pull the trigger to make the threat go away. But
And that's free,
again,
like we talked
what's
about last.
that?
And those reps are free.
Yep, yep. And you can get all of that and iron all of that out for free in the comfort of your own home after you safe and clear the weapon to accomplish dry fire. Absolutely. Um, Dusty, Conley, Travis, did we forget anything for this discussion? I think once again we're right at about 30 minutes for sight alignment, sight picture.
No, I just wanted to say something from way earlier. We talked about sights
Yeah.
coming out of alignment on some of the stock stuff, but I wanted to reiterate that new shooters don't assume that the sights are off before you get plenty of repetitions on proper sight
Oh
picture,
man,
sight
you
alignment,
said
and
it.
all the other. You
You
know,
said
so
it.
don't
Oh,
assume the equipment's malfunctioning, even though we did say it in the podcast.
yeah.
It's not the sights, it's the ammo, obviously.
That was going to be my next statement.
Exactly.
It's the
Yep, Conley.
ammo.
He knows me so well. He knew
Yeah.
exactly what was about to come out of my mouth was going to be no, it's not the sights. It's definitely not the shooter. It's the ammo. Is this quality controlled ammo? I don't think so. Call the phone number on the box. I've got some comments and a question I'd like to ask them.
The 82nd Airborne sold it because they shot 500 rounds through it, and they said this isn't good enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh
No, I
man,
don't. I
that's
don't have
a
anything else, Clark.
touche. All right. Well, that once again, man, we've hit on about 4 or 5 things that could be their own discussion, and I'm writing them down over here. So here in the future, we do need to have a conversation about um, issues or shot diagnosis that are not fundamental related, that are hardware related, be it sights slipping or ammunition that you've thrown in there from Tony's gun storage or pawn shop or whatnot that's not quality controlled. So, a bunch of great perspectives, gentlemen, as always. I am thankful to be able to chat with you this week about sight alignment and sight picture. We'll get up next week and hopefully start looking at trigger control. And we're going to dedicate probably the whole discussion to that. But all right, I have figured out how to stop the recording, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. You guys, thank you again. I thought I'd figured it out.
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I did.